what it used to, 'cause a dollar ain't a dollar anymore. No, a dollar bill don't buy what it used to, don't buy what it used to, don't buy what it used to. No, a dollar bill don't buy what it used to, 'cause a dollar ain't a dollar anymore.
CBS News presents Inflation, Passing the Buck, with correspondent Roger Mudd.
Seems like every time you go to the store, you pick up one article and it's gone up a penny or two.
I mean, I don't eat steak every day of the week, I'll tell you that right now.
I don't mind paying for food. If we can't do anything else, least I'm going to do is eat good.
Or dress pants. You could buy a pair for $10, $12. Now they're $20 if you want a halfway decent pair.
Okay. Before my wife started working full-time, sometimes at the end of the week I was lucky if I had 25 cents left in my pocket.
Last September we had a dime raise. Well, this, as far as I'm concerned, this dime raise is, we're going downhill.
I mean, you're taking more out of your check, so then you got to have more, too. So you're not stopping inflation. When the contract comes up, we're going to ask for a lot more, because this is costing us more in the long run.
You can wear a uniform tonight? Make sure you have to.
Are these men just griping, or are they really wounded? It may be hard to believe when you look at these healthy faces that inflation has become America's first domestic issue. Not campus rebellion and its tortured faces, not poverty, which is so easily recognizable. But this report, admittedly impressionistic, is about some strange things that are happening in America because of high prices. These men are not poor, they are not ill-fed or poorly clad, they are not unhappy, they are not angry. They get regular pay raises on negotiated union contracts, and yet their lives, and millions like them, have become a daily struggle to break even. Their American dream has become the American dilemma: how to live with inflation, how to balance desire with discipline. Last year, the average American's income rose 9%, but higher taxes and inflation cut this back to around 3% on the average, which means that a lot of people didn't come out much better, and some came out worse. On this program, we are not dealing with charts and graphs and statistics. We are looking at people in an average town trying to escape the squeeze of rising prices and rising taxes. This overall impression of La Crosse will not be complicated. In fact, it will be deceptively simple. But its conclusion, for the layman, will be startling. Its conclusion is that for the average family, an income of $9,000 to $10,000 a year, which is the national median, does not mean affluence or even a semblance of it. We drew our conclusion from La Crosse, Wisconsin, as average a town as we could find. La Crosse on the Mississippi is a spacious city of 55,000 people. Most of them work in factories. At the moment, construction is heavy, much of it government work, a new city hall, a fine arts center, a large federal building. But through the years, the fortunes of the town generally stay on an even keel. No boom, no bust. And while La Crosse is one place where you can still make a telephone call for a nickel, most prices here are not much different from those anywhere else. The buying continues because La Crosse is a healthy town of diversified industry, 75 plants. And one of the largest is Norplex Plastics. 5 years ago, Norplex hired Tom Fisher, and with La Crosse as our laboratory, Fisher is our subject. A high school graduate, 25 years old, Tom held 4 jobs before he joined Norplex. He is now paid $120 a week, close to the national average for plant workers. But with 2 children and a third expected in November, Tom cannot make it on his pay, unless his wife works too. Karen Fisher, 23, is on this production line making boots on government contract at a local rubber mill. She is paid $89 a week. Even after taxes, Tom and Karen bring home a respectable income, $165 a week. But even that is barely enough anymore. And by solving one dilemma, the Fishers have got into another. Their children, Chris and Timmy, have to be cared for all day long by a substitute mother. Chris, 4 years old, perhaps understands what's going on, but sometimes on Saturday mornings when Karen is home, little Timmy wakes up calling for Shar, the babysitter, Charlene. We found that in La Crosse and all over the country, more wives are taking up jobs and hiring young babysitters so they can make ends meet as prices and taxes go up. The biggest worry for the Fishers is the unexpected. A doctor or dentist bill that might destroy the monthly budget or their savings and maybe send them out borrowing. The Fishers have no savings account, only $100 tucked away in a dresser. In La Crosse, as in most of America, a car is no luxury. The leaky transmission in Tom's 62 Olds is a constant source of worry. And if it goes, at today's repair prices, there goes the money in the dresser.
Pay a little more for gas now.
How much going up so much? The last time I looked, it was 39 cents or 38 cents.
Yeah, well, that's about a little better. That's better than 2 months ago, though. Everything's going up. Don't throw out a muffler, it'll cost you twice as much now as it used to.
Why does it go up so much?
I don't know. Company never gives you no reason for it. They just says cost of labor and tax is terrific on
Tom spends around $9 a week for gasoline and oil, which seems like a lot, but he can't find any way to cut down. Friday is payday in La Crosse, and Tom makes his rounds. The first stop is depositing his check, all of it. He's responsible for paying the bills. After taxes and other deductions, he's earned $97 for the week. It goes fast. $6.60 for the telephone. $21.96 for gas and electricity. Like so many other people, Tom is in debt, what they call a combined household and auto loan. About $900 still to pay off. Most weeks, the number at the bottom isn't much bigger than the one at the top. By the end of the month, it will balance out with maybe just a few dollars to spare. And that's only because of Karen. At 3:30 Friday afternoon, Karen leaves the plant. She's cashed her $68 paycheck, and with it, Tom and Karen are on the upper edge of what some economists call the working poor, the office or factory employees with no special skills. They always make it, just barely, but they can't do it easily, and they never get very far ahead on their regular pay. Karen pays Charlene, the babysitter, 50 cents an hour, $20 a week, every Friday. That leaves Karen $48 out of her take-home pay. Until the Saturday before we met Tom, he owned a small 15-foot fiberglass boat to go fishing or picnicking with his family. But to get one thing, the Fishers have to give up another. Tom sold his boat to buy a bed for Timmy. The rest of Karen's paycheck is set aside for groceries and other cash expenses. The supermarket is part of the Fridays and an exercise in comparative shopping, comparing yesterday and today. Some things, mostly local services, are cheaper in La Crosse, but national brands tend to sell at a standard national price. They go up everywhere. Soap powder rose 8 cents in the last couple of months. Now coffee is going up, and hamburger is 13 cents more a pound. Karen is particularly cautious in the meat department.
Good afternoon. Can I help you, ma'am?
Yes, I'd like some pork chops.
Pork chop?
What is the difference between the lean and the center rib?
These pork chops over here, have a tenderloin in them, where your 99 centers are without tenderloin. Which ones would you like, ma'am?
Okay, I'll take the center rib.
What else?
I'd like some lunch meat here, the big bologna, about 40 cents worth.
40 cents worth? And anything else today?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, folks. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
If you ask Karen what she buys on Friday when she can splurge a little, she says, a good steak or maybe a roast. The grocer will tell you that his prices have gone up as much as anything else. But many people are still spending as they always have. Others have to be careful about some things.
How about the checkout counter?
The measure of our times is that the fishers, who can afford premium gasoline, cannot afford tenderloin pork chops. Five years ago, Karen would have paid $4 less for the same bundle of groceries. This particular Friday, which began with $165, ended with $23.59, and that will be gone by next Friday. If there is one time and one place to measure quickly America's affluence, it is on the water on the weekend. 20 years ago, La Crosse, Wisconsin's stretch of the Mississippi River was only that, a stretch of river. But today it is an inboard, outboard, hydroplaning, water skiing pleasure dome for many, but not all.
You should go buy a canoe. I'd like to have a canoe.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You can take the kids in the canoe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a big long one. You can take the kids in that.
Now the fishers have to borrow a boat.
You can make them, too, you know, out of plywood, like a kayak, you know.
Yeah. Didn't Ron make one? I know he was.
Yeah. That was a kayak. He made it and he sold it.
Did he sell it already?
Yeah, he made money on it.
Now that you don't have the boat, is another boat, a second boat, something you want to get very soon?
Oh, we like the water, but there are other things we need before.
Things for the home. I don't know. I really would like to have newer things like, new furniture and end tables and things that match, not hit and miss things.
But if you had your end tables matching and your sofa had been reupholstered and all that was taken care of, what would be your idea then of something very special and luxurious?
Oh, going on a trip out to see out on the coast. Going would really be a luxury for us now. I mean, to just be able to pack up and to just leave.
Do you worry about this constant battle to make your checks equal your bills and your commitments?
No.
Not when both of us are working. Seems to take that pressure off. But now, when I do quit working, we have to depend on his check for a while. It's going to be a little harder again. Tom thinks he's going to get a part-time job until I'm able to go back either full-time or find a part-time job when the baby's a little older.
Well, Tom, when do you foresee that time when Karen doesn't have to work?
Well, maybe someday I'll get a better job. I don't know. But, if we happen to get good raises in our contract, so I can make a little more money. I don't want her to work. I don't think any woman should have to work.
Karen, what are the prospects of owning your own home? You rent this one, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it'll take a while now that we're expecting this baby. It'll take a little longer to get the money saved. So the down payment, it's gotten real big. And that's why it's so hard now to buy a home. 2-3 years ago, we didn't need to have near as much for a down payment.
Your down payment, yeah.
Well, it's 10%. Now they want usually 20%. But you can still...
There are a few places that you can swing 10, but...
And the mortgage rate is, what is it, about 8%?
7.5%.
Is that enough? If you had the money, would that discourage you from buying a house, or would you go ahead anyhow?
We go ahead anyhow if we had the money.
But even if they had the down payment money, it is not likely the Fishers could meet the monthly mortgage payments. Tom Wheeler is a local realtor.
This is the kind of house that the Fishers would really like to afford. The problem is that their income doesn't quite keep up with the price of the house. The 8% interest rate, higher taxes, and higher labor and material costs all mean higher monthly payments. A few years ago, they could have afforded a house like this, but unfortunately today they can't.
But what about the man who can afford a new subdivision house? Is life easier for him? Is he saving? Paul Brady, a Norplex sales engineer who earns more than $12,000 a year.
We're spending probably at the rate we're making money.
How much have you been able to save at work? Is it a pension?
It's a percentage of, I believe, 5 for pension.
But you don't have a savings account?
No, not as such.
Do you wish you had one?
No, not particularly.
Why?
Because I don't feel that a savings account is beneficial as such For example, to save $10 or $20 a week at present cost me $10 or $20, whereas the money 30 years from now, when I'd be retiring and want to spend it, I doubt sufficient to do anything.
Well, what in the last year, aside from food, have you spent your money on?
Well, we spent it on new carpeting, a dishwasher, additional bedroom furniture for the children, things for the new baby because none of the remnants were around from the other 4 children, and also our first vacation in 11 years.
Where did you go?
Down to Florida.
For how long?
3 weeks.
Inflation attacks some old-fashioned American virtues, like saving money, like not spending your capital. So inflation isn't just a sickness of the money system. It has moral and ethical overtones. Karen, who do you blame most for inflation?
I think it's, I don't know really where to begin. It seems like, I think the worst thing was is when really noticed is like when the government put the tax on everything. And then that started taking more money. Then they, I don't know, it's just this is that mad circle again. It's just the same thing round and round all the time. Because if one puts the tax on, they're going to charge a little more or something so they break even too. So we come out, I don't know, it's a big mad circle. I don't know where to put the finger on it.
How about you, Tom?
I don't know, it seems like it really started as the war progressed. You know, things got worse in the United States. I don't know why.
The Vietnam War.
Yes. And well, when the worker gets a raise, then of course the company has to raise their pay. So, I mean their prices. And I don't know who to blame it.
Tom and Karen don't really know how it all works or what the answer is. Once upon a time, inflation was defined simply as a surplus of money over and above the amount of goods available, and that's why prices went up. Now it's more complicated. We turn to the business leaders of La Crosse, the people who are supposed to know. Each has his own view, and each in his own way is right. Tom Fisher's bank is the First National. George Milne is the president. Mr. Milne, what in your mind are the main causes of inflation?
I think to be perfectly frank, I think it starts a lot with the government and the amount of money that they're pouring into the economy. And it filters down all the way, even into our little town. We have some government contracts here that have been very good for us.
And yet, while they've been good for you, they have caused inflation also.
Exactly.
So that the result is it isn't good.
Over a period of years, that's correct.
When you talk to most businessmen and retailers, Mr. Milne, 9 out of 10 will blame the unions for inflation. Do you believe that?
This, I'm sure, is a controversial question, and I think it almost goes back to the problem which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Well, have you decided which does come first?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
I think that the price increase comes first, and that's been proven by a study of the recession we had in 1953 and 54, and again in the recession we had in 1957 and 58, and again with the small recession we had in 1961. I blame the people that set the prices. The large corporations who are actually they're non-competitive now because they more or less control the industry and can call the shots. I blame them for it, and I blame the tax structure for it, because the tax structure is such that it's unfair, and a lot of people who could afford to pay a lot more taxes are in some cases paying none at all.
To my way of thinking, it's a sudden increase in the money supply, and this is generally brought about by the government itself at times when they have to borrow such great amounts of money to pay for the services and goods which they purchase, which are in excess of the tax receipts.
What, in your estimation, Mr. Milne, would break the wage price spiral?
Well, I'm sure this is not going to be a popular reply, but I believe that freezing of both wages and prices eventually will be essential to stop inflation.
One good way to do it would be if we had a board set up by the government to review prices, review wages, and before a price increase could be put into effect, it would have to be justified based on the profitability of the company and the competitive position and so forth. I think that would go a long way towards stopping it.
It has been said that it would require a depression or a recession, I shall put it that way, before an inflationary period can be broken. And I kind of go along with that type of thinking, and yet it's the most drastic method to be used. Nobody likes to see a recession and unemployment prevalent over the country.
Under the apparent helm of Lacrosse, something scary-filling prophecy. The prophecy goes like this. The prophecy fulfills itself because if people believe prices will be higher later, they'll buy now. The more people buy, the more money there is in circulation. And the speed at which money moves is just another way of defining inflation. As for the Fishers are not tense or really worried, for the pressure on them is not for survival, but of desire and expectation. Once every month or two, they can a small luxury night out. Though the economists and the Fishers are working-class poor, the Fishers see themselves as middle-class, and to live middle-class lives. We have taken the in Lacrosse, and while there is no inflation fever, there is discomfort. Each opinion we have heard has merit, but nobody here, any more than in Washington, can find a solution or name the villain. Still, there is something spooky about the way Tom and Karen Fisher's $165 a week all but vanishes on a given Friday. What we do know is that inflation, not civil rights, not the campuses, but inflation, has become the first priority of the Nixon administration, if not the #1 domestic political issue in the country. If the federal government can never really control the huge U.S. economy, it will be because so many Americans now believe inflation to be a permanent part of their lives and are living accordingly. Buy today because tomorrow it will cost more. This is Roger Mudd. Good night.
By the way, Tom, I'm going to have to raise the price of haircuts. I just raised it this last week. Seems though everything is going up nowadays. Today the pop man came in and raised my Coke 20 cents a case.
Coke. How come you raised the price of haircuts?
It just seems as though everything is going up. You can't keep up with it. Yeah, I don't know what this world is coming to. It seems as though every time we turn around, something is going higher and higher.